Of course, Saleh then walked it back today.
Oh, then shocking.
He said, but from a cadence standpoint, that's part of what makes us who we are.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to always push the envelope
Certainly,
on that.
yeah, you don't
so the pendulum's swinging all over the place. Your reaction?
My reaction is I am legitimately, irrationally angry at media colleagues, some of whom literally or figuratively wave Jets pom-poms, who yesterday around 5 p.m. were like, you know, they might have a coaching problem, you think? Like, the 3 years before didn't let you know that, or the trying to get rid of the offensive coordinator and failing didn't let you know that maybe, just maybe, the Jets coaching staff isn't totally buttoned up. But then also, I got yelled at all offseason because I'm like, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, good players, like them. And I'm like, if you're not calling these two of the most dynamic superstars in the league, well, it's quarter of the season. I'd like to see Garrett Wilson have 60 yards. Breece Hall yesterday, I think, had 10 carries for 4 yards. Everyone's mad they didn't give Braylon Allen the ball at the goal line, not that they gave it to Breece Hall. Like, this Jets team, and Aaron, who played poorly, listen, the conditions were bad, and if you didn't watch the game, you knew it because they brought it up at every chance they had in the press conference, whether it was the coach or the quarterback. But you play outdoors in New York in professional
well, he
football.
doesn't practice, remember.
I get that. But them talking, coach, last week about, we learn to deal with success and then we figure out how to dominate. You beat Will Levis in a game you played poorly and the worst team in the league, Jacoby Brissett. And if they're not the worst team in the league, it's because Will Levis's team is. Like, so I'm just, I'm shocked that people are shocked. I'm shocked that people are like, oh, the team coached by Sean Payton with a really good defense found a way to keep it close and steal a win from the team coached by Robert Saleh with supposedly a really good defense.
Yeah, the whole idea about learning how to deal with success after, 3 games is, I mean, that's ridiculous to talk about in general. Yeah. But forget about that. This is one of the few times that I'll probably say this. I absolutely agree with Aaron Rodgers. Wow. I absolutely agree with what he said.
Twist.
And here's why. Because Aaron Rodgers throughout the course of his career has been outstanding with cadence. Yep. He leads the NFL in touchdowns off of free plays. Yep. Okay, so it's been a huge weapon for him. Now, outside of that, he uses it to slow down the pass rush. He uses it when you can stagger cadences. It keeps the defensive line off rhythm. It allows him to see blitzes. It allows him to adjust to wide receivers. All those things. So even the remote idea of taking that weapon away from him it doesn't make any sense. And let's talk about a bigger problem. Can we pull up the sacks? He was sacked 5 times yesterday. Okay, over the last 5 years, he's only been sacked a total of 6 times. 6 times.
6 games with 5+
6
sacks.
games has that happened. That to me is the bigger problem, and that's tied into cadence too. And I know Nick loved the draft pick of the offensive lineman, the tackle in the first round, and there's forward thing. Yeah, they brought in 1 million offensive linemen. I get it.
Give Joe Douglas more time, Coach.
I know.
He's going to build the offensive line.
At some point, this is going to happen. But in Rodgers' defense, now I don't like the way he says it. He obviously, it's like when you don't like your boss, and that's the tone that you answer every question with and everything involving him. The tone I don't love, but the message is spot on. This is a pre-snap penalty. It has nothing to do with anything but discipline. So you need to be disciplined and be able to use cadence.
Yeah, I'll say, first of all, that's a horrific loss. A horrific loss. They should be 3-1. Now you got Minnesota, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh. I think they can go 1-2 in those games, but obviously all 3 are losable. But even if you go 1-2, you're 3 and 4.
You're going to be 3 and 4.
Whereas you could have had built up a really nice record. So that's an unforgivable loss. All right. Now, I got to be honest, and I have no idea what the relationship is between Rodgers and Saleh. Obviously, we see hints.
I think you can guess.
We see hints that it's not great. But I also think the media is overblowing a little bit what Saleh said. Now, when I heard it like everybody else, the question asked to Rodgers, Robert Saleh said maybe you guys need to, change the cadence and stuff like that. So, Rodgers, I agree with you, Coach. Absolutely right. Like, that's a weapon of his, probably the best ever to use that as a weapon. So if I'm Aaron Rodgers and I just hear that question and they say my coach said that, even if whatever the relationship is, now I'm really questioning his football acumen because I'm like, I've been great at this, so why is this even an issue? But when I went back and looked at Saleh's whole press conference, he did not say we might have to change the cadence. What he said was, and we just showed it, but he said there's whether or not we're good enough or ready for the cadence. And then he said what Rodgers said, which is we've been fine all year with it. Like, it's not been a problem. So to me, to report it as Saleh said they might have to change this, because I was like, that's ridiculous. But when I went back and looked at it, he didn't say that.
Well, he said
he brought it up
as
questioned.
Dial it back.
Yeah,
No, he didn't say dial it back. He said we might not be good enough.
Which would mean they would have to, if they're not good enough.
It could be taken a few ways. It could be taken as one, that's an observation that Saleh's making. It could be taken as two, we're not good enough. I'm going to have to discipline these guys and make sure we're good enough.
Yeah, but
because he said afterwards, we've been fine the first 3 weeks of the season.
Right.
With it. So why would it be a problem now?
When you say good enough, this isn't ability. This has nothing to do with ability. This is whether or not you can concentrate and listen. You don't have to be athletic. You don't have to be, it's not throwing deep balls. It's not specialty plays. Can you listen to the right sound before you start the play?
And I agree with Rodgers on the answer is for Saleh to discipline the linemen and make sure they do it. My only point is I don't think Saleh was definitively coming out and saying, like, we might have to change it.
That's fine, but I agree with you, Brew, that I don't think he was saying we're going to change this. But I do think Rodgers, whether it is in a press conference or a sideline hug, every chance he gets to humiliate the guy, he'll take it. Every chance he gets to give people who aren't inside the organization the signal, not my guy, he'll take it. And the other part of it is all of these Jets fans that I either live around or watch on television or whatever, the moment they lost to the Niners, it was just fait accompli. All right, bad game, bad loss, but we're going to be 4-1. We're going to beat the Titans. We're going to beat the Patriots. We're going to beat the Broncos. We're going to beat the Vikings. Well, you escaped against the Titans. Beat the Patriots. Congrats. So will 12 other teams. The Broncos then, with Bo Nix throwing 25 passes for 60 yards. At one point, he had 6 completions for -7 yards, beat you.
It's close to an NFL record.
Yes, it's the fewest yards for that many passes and that many completions. Minnesota, you're now the underdog. In London, Minnesota, you're going to be at best 3-4. Getting ready for a game against New England, who you'll walk over and be 4-4, and then all of a sudden, once again, try to convince yourselves, oh, now we've steadied the ship. This has never been a good team.
Well, they could be. I disagree that at best they could be 3-4. I do think they can win 2 of these games.
Bro,
the AFC.
They're not good.
Only a handful of teams in the AFC are definitively really good.
Well, Buffalo's one of them.
Buffalo, Baltimore,
Pittsburgh's
Kansas
better
City.
than them.
But they don't have a good win
I don't know that Pittsburgh is better.
They don't have a good win. They haven't.
Now
Wilds is out on the
the
Patriots.
Patriots aren't a good win now.
I mean, it's hard to argue that the Patriots are a good win.
Yesterday was abysmal, so it's hard to defend them
So I guess my point is they were awful in week 1. They were a C- performance in week 2, but you played Will Levis, so luckily you won. They were awful yesterday. That's 3 out of 4 games. The new, fresh, healthy Jets. The Jets, the story was as long as they're healthy, they'll be fine. Well, they're healthy.
Well, the defense,
they were at home.
I know Denver's not the greatest offense, but the defense was good yesterday. Great yesterday.
Yeah.
Does Philly have a Jalen Hurts problem?
Well, they have a lot of problems, but now he's one of them. They used to have problems other than him. Now he is one of their many problems. And we'll talk more about their many problems later in the show. But on Hurts, and Sirianni after the game tried to say, he's like, strip sacks don't count as fumbles. Essentially, and that's sometimes true. You know what I mean? There are certain times where there's instant blindside pressure and you don't hold against him. This ain't one of them. As my old partner Chris Carter used to say, where did you think the guy went? The guy who you avoided and went right behind you. Like, where did you think he went? And so, but it's not a 1 game or a 4 game thing. Since the Super Bowl, here is Jalen Hurts. 27 turnovers. He has played 22 games. Passer rating below average. Like, it's just so. My answer is yes, because he is paid like he is supposed to be part of the solution, and he is the most turnover-prone player in the NFL right now.
There's no denying it. Right now, he's a problem. You know, like he's just, as Nick said, since the Super Bowl, he hasn't played well. And when you look at his career, he's had 4+ seasons. He's had one good/great year. That's it. Now, he hasn't fallen off like Carson Wentz, but he is struggling. He doesn't look confident, and we're going to get into Sirianni. Sirianni seems like he's lost his confidence as well when you watch him in the press conferences. But we're like, Jalen Hurts is blowing it right now. And I know, again, we can talk about the coaching. You want to talk about the offensive coordinator. Last year he had Brian Johnson, who was like a longtime family friend. That didn't work out. Now Kellen Moore, that's not working out. You look at the talent around him. He's got one of the best offensive lines in the league. I know the receivers were out yesterday, both of the top ones, but still, generally you got a great receiving core. You got one of the best running backs in the league, and he's not getting it done. So I think he can turn it around and play better, but just like people are looking at Sirianni and their defense and Vic Fangio, and you got to look at Hurts now too.
Yeah, you hear it in his voice at the press conference. Before, he always says the right thing. Before, there was conviction in his voice. I'm going to get this fixed. Now it's almost like he's looking for an answer to how he's going to get it fixed. And I'll just show you some more statistics that reinforce what Nick said. And it kind of reminds you of what they went through with Carson Wentz. When you look at his big season, his TD percentage, his interception percentage, and his turnovers, okay, high TD percentage.
8 turnovers
and then
all of that year.
You go to the next year. Now you're down in TD percentage, your interception percentage, same thing, and right on down the line, we're at 20 turnovers last year. In 2023, we're already at 7 this year in 2024.
Yeah, and I think those interception percentage numbers are transposed. It was 1.3 in 2022.
1.3, the 2.8.
And 2.8 last year.
Yeah, those should be flipped on the other side. But there's been this regression in every category, significant category, and they're just looking for answers, and not a lot have come.
Okay.
They struggled with the freaking Carolina Panthers. So I'm just saying they still might make the playoffs because the AFC looks mediocre
But you also,
right now.
so here's the thing. But I really want to focus on Wilds here. But you also think if they make the playoffs, they're scary. You just told us earlier.
They obviously play the Chiefs tough. I like them better than Buffalo
your
if they
faith
get
is
in.
somewhat restored.
So
I just want to show.
But my team is the Ravens.
Listen, and by the way, Bengals-Ravens next week.
Yeah. So the Bengals are going to be 1-4.
Well, maybe. Here, listen, Joe Burrow played terribly against the Patriots. And everyone that watches this show knows it because Wilds then lectured us that you can't think the Patriots are bad if you don't think the Bengals are awful. You told us. You did a whole thing about it. Since then, Joe Burrow has been extraordinary. Now, the Bengals team defensively is the worst team of the Joe Burrow era. But Kevin Wilds,
yes.
Last week you gave us a list of quarterbacks that you think are better than Joe Burrow. Is that list shorter today? Are you willing to be back on the Joe Burrow's clearly, undoubtedly one of the 5, at worst, 5 best quarterbacks in football?
He's playing well. But we have a rule on this show early in NFL seasons. It's the same reason we're not giving Aaron Rodgers a ton of credit. If your wins are against teams that everyone knows are bad, you don't get to put on a gold jacket and start working on the bust for Canton. You beat literally the worst team. I'm sorry to Trevor Lawrence, one of the worst teams for your first win. So my opinion has not changed.
So here's the thing. I agree with you that we have a rule on this show that as a team, if you only beat bad teams, your team might not be great.
Yeah.
But as an individual player, if you play great, and by the way, he played very well against the Chiefs. They lost, but that, in my eyes, was not on him.
You think he was great yesterday? I don't think he was great.
I thought he was good. I thought the pick at the end was bad.
Hold on. Now, Carolina had the ball with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter with a chance to tie the game. That play by Jamar Chase, that wasn't a great throw. That was a great run after the catch that went for a lot of yards. Now, T. Higgins had 6 catches. Jamar Chase is showing some life. There's a lot of positives. They're running the ball better. All those things are encouraging. But it's not like you look at that game against a team that's extremely challenged and say, now, it would have been a lot more impressive if they did to Carolina what Baltimore.
No, I understand.
Nick,
but
if not for that play by Chase, he's got about 165
well, I don't know.
passing
If not for that, maybe he gets those same yards on that same drive. The last week, they never punted, they never turned the ball over. They scored 33, and they lost. I think Joe Burrow played great in that game.
Last week he did.
This week they scored 34 points. I think Joe Burrow played very well. I watched the Chiefs game. We all saw it. I thought Joe Burrow played very well. So I don't look at that that he has played terribly. I think he played terribly in one game. I think you're too down on him because the team isn't great.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Okay. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.